Good evening, I am Tomas Guevara Calderon, and this is the channel Rewriting the Reality. Subscribe now to know more about our origin. In today's episode 124, I will explain again the nature of our blood pressure. There is a saying attributed to Confucius that says something like this: if the problem has a solution, why worry? And if it doesn't have a solution, then why worry? The Chinese philosopher Confucius's wisdom has left a lasting impact on Chinese culture and beyond. Let's explore this further. Confucius, also known as Kongzi, lived during the spring and autumn period in ancient China, around 551 to 479 BCE. He is traditionally considered the paragon of Chinese sages and the first teacher in China to advocate for mass education. His philosophical teachings, known as Confucianism, emphasized various principles, including personal and governmental morality, correctness of social relationships, justice, kindness, sincerity, and a ruler's responsibilities to lead by virtue. Now, about the saying itself, Confucius didn't express it exactly in those words, but the sentiment aligns with his teachings. Here's a similar idea from Confucius. I am the sort of man who forgets to eat when trying to solve a problem, who is so joyful that I forget my worries and do not become aware of the onset of old age. Confucius, Analects, 7:19. In essence, Confucius believed that if a problem has a solution, there's no need to worry excessively because the solution will eventually emerge. On the other hand, if a problem has no solution, worrying won't change the outcome, so it's better to focus on what we can control. Interestingly, this philosophy resonates with other wise thinkers as well. For instance, the Zen saying captures a similar sentiment. If the problem has a solution, worrying is pointless. In the end, the problem will be solved. If the problem has no solution, there is no reason to worry because it can't be solved. And even the Dalai Lama 14 expressed a similar thought. If there is no solution to the problem, then don't waste time worrying about it. If there is a solution to the problem, then don't waste time worrying about it. So, whether it's Confucius, Zen wisdom, or the Dalai Lama, the message remains clear: focus on solutions and let go of unnecessary worry. Other philosophers, like William of Ockham, is credited with the principle known as Occam's razor. This problem-solving principle recommends searching for explanations constructed with the smallest possible set of elements. In other words, when faced with competing hypotheses that have equal explanatory power, one should prefer the hypothesis that requires the fewest assumptions. Occam's razor is often paraphrased as, the simplest explanation is usually the best one. It encourages us to avoid unnecessary complexity and to seek elegant, straightforward solutions. So, if a problem has a solution, there's no need to worry needlessly. Additionally, Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once famously said, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced." This thought-provoking quote reminds us to embrace life rather than constantly seeking solutions. Sometimes, the journey itself is more important than the destination, and he is right because we are here to explore and experience. Now let's focus on today's theme, blood pressure. Many people, when working on their computers, or when doing other tasks, at some point, get frustrated or irritated because something is not going well in some way. And that then triggers the blood pressure to skyrocket. Also, expectations about relationships, or about money, outcomes of jobs, etc. can trigger your subjective rise in your blood pressure. I have said previously that the body consciousness doesn't do anything without direction from the subjective awareness. Therefore, we are left to conclude that it's the subjective awareness that is directing the body consciousness to elevate the blood pressure. Based on that, many people don't trust the subjective awareness. But I also said that the subjective and the objective move in harmony with each other. And in that, the subjective awareness in many situations, in relation to the direction of the body, takes and includes cues from the objective. It has been established that when you are frustrated or irritated, that will affect blood pressure. Therefore, in that, what is important to know, and this is actually excellent, that we brought this up today, because this is something that will likely be very helpful to other individuals also, because like many people, they also think that if they are repeatedly expressing something that they want or that they don't want, then the subjective awareness will take that information and will simply be expressing in that direction from then on. And that's not necessarily correct, because the subjective and the objective are two sides of one coin. Therefore, they always move in harmony with each other. For this reason, in order for the subjective awareness to actually change something within the body, the objective has to also change. You can't change one without the other. Therefore, it's a matter of recognizing that when you want something to alter with the subjective, then you also must alter the objective expression. And in that, this is the reason that it can be challenging, because then it's a matter of the individual altering behavior to alter how the subjective awareness is affecting and directing of the body. The solution is to be aware of your behavior, being aware of what you're doing. Avoid having an automatic reaction to something. But even when you are reacting to something, if you are aware enough, then you also will move in that direction intentionally, and the subjective awareness will respond, because your objective expression is in harmony with that. But in time frameworks in which your objective behavior is not altered and is still moving in a familiar, automatic direction, the subjective is going to do the same thing, meaning increasing your blood pressure. You can say that your irritation and frustration is normal, but normal is relative, and it's also significant to not move in that trap of comparison and looking at yourself from that perspective, because we are individuals and everyone has different beliefs, and our beliefs affect how we create our reality. Now, not only are we individual, but I would say if we were speaking about normalcy and the masses, we're more self-aware. And the more self-aware we are, the less our subjective awareness and our objective awareness will accommodate expressions that we are more aware of. Therefore, this is actually something that is a positive, but for a time, for many individuals, they might actually perceive it as a negative. It's that the more aware you become, the less either your objective or subjective awareness will move in the direction of familiarities, and even automatic expressions if they don't serve you, if they are counterproductive, and if they are actually harmful. Therefore, what happens is the signals become louder and louder and louder. And therefore, in something such as this, it's not surprising that it would be something that lasts or continues for more than a day. Because in that you're, in a manner of speaking, screaming at yourself that this is something that is actually a subject that could be relatively easily remedied. It's something that is, as you expressed, something minor, but you're still allowing it to happen when you don't have to. That is what we call making a storm in a glass of water. Therefore, many times people move to a certain point in their self-awareness in which they are considerably self-aware, and they have certain behaviors that they perceive, or they think of as minor, and therefore they don't pay attention to them, and they don't actually change them. And in that, they have similar reactions regarding the blood pressure. They may have it in different manners, but I would say that they have reactions that seem disproportionate to what it is that is happening. And in that, it's not actually disproportionate any longer, because it is yourself, your body, screaming at you about what you know and what you're not doing. And it happens more and more, the more aware you become. Little things become intolerable, because it's contrary to what you're doing. It's contrary to the rest of you. And therefore, it's a matter of you recentering yourself, balancing, and looking at these minor expressions, in your terms, knowing that these are things that likely will be targeted. Therefore, moving in a direction of not simply walking away after the fact when you're already frustrated or irritated, but as soon as you begin being frustrated or irritated or annoyed or agitated in some capacity, that you already have a plan in place to practice. And then it will become automatic. such as when you are meditating, set the intention to aid yourself in those situations to be aware immediately. And in that, also create a plan that as soon as you begin being agitated that you stop, and you breathe. Also, something to change your perception, to lessen or eliminate the importance of these types of situations. Change your perception about your expectations of your computer, your job, your relationships, or pay attention to when those situations happen. Perhaps you've been sitting there too long, or you've been too concentrated on what you're doing, and it would be very advantageous for you to take a break. Because the frustration is making you take a break, and it's a matter of you moving in the direction of paying attention to yourself and therefore not moving to that point in which you are agitated, and then this situation occurs. I would say that it's a matter of stopping that before it begins to actually escalate. And in that, I would express that it's a matter of practicing and being aware of what you're doing when, and what you're feeling. Don't ignore those signals. The solution is to change your perception. It's not only the subjective awareness. It's also your objective awareness. I can't emphasize that strongly enough, that they move in harmony together, and therefore it's not that your subjective awareness is suspect or is moving in opposition to you or that it's untrustworthy. It's more what you're paying attention to objectively and how that is influencing the instructions of the subjective awareness, and how they are moving. Therefore, it might seem that you're not doing anything at all, but that doesn't mean that you are necessarily in that moment centered and balanced. And you might be calm, but not centered and balanced, or you might be balanced and not centered. There are many factors that are involved, and that is the reason that I emphasize so much and so strongly to everyone how important it is to be aware of you and what you're doing. I'm not saying to people to be aware of their subjective awareness. I'm expressing that they are aware of themselves, knowing that they're interpreting that as their objective awareness, which is correct. Because that is what you generally can intentionally direct and manipulate. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes to intentionally direct and manipulate the subjective awareness. And what are the things that affect the body automatically in degeneration? Anxiety, irritation, anger, frustration, stress. These are all expressions that you objectively express. But where do they all come from? They all come from your body. Your body generates all of those. But why is it generating all of those? Because you are reacting to something objectively, and the body then is generating signals that are expressed in those directions of feelings, which are signals. With those signals, then if you're not moving in the direction of listening to that immediately, then what happens is then the body reacts in degeneration. Which you don't have to be tremendously aware or even know all of this terminology to see what happens with the body with those expressions, with those signals. And people don't pay attention to those signals, to the point in which they don't even know that they are having those signals any longer, because they've been living with them for years, and they don't realize that in all that time, the body has been degenerating along with those signals and that action of not paying attention to the body. It's a matter of anything, that whatever you want to accomplish, you have to engage action. Therefore, even in relation to things such as regeneration or anything that is inside the body that you can't see, it's a matter of also engaging actions objectively to reinforce that and to aid in that action. Now, let me offer you an exercise to reduce your blood pressure, humming or singing. Beginning with the humming is important, because humming engages a very different action than singing. It engages your vocal cords and your throat very differently, and in that, it strengthens the energy in that area. Then I would say that when you have been doing that for a time framework, you can expand it into the action of singing. Now let me say to you first of all, with humming you can actually engage a wider range of notes than you may be able to in sing, and therefore it allows you to open that energy center. It is opening the energy of that energy center to be more expansive. Then the action of singing is also very constructive, because this does much more than you would necessarily expect. because it is an action that is interactive. Even if you aren't singing with anyone else in proximity to you, even if your idea is that no one knows that you are singing, remember, everything is interconnected. And it is an action that regardless of whether you actually have an audience or not, singing is a very interactive expression, and it is a very sharing expression. This is the reason that you will notice that in every religion there is an expression of singing that is involved in one manner or another, because that action is perceived to be highly spiritual but also very much connecting with spirit, with God, with other spirits. In this, it doesn't matter whether you believe in any of those directions or not, the action is the same. And in that, it allows you to be expressing that connectedness with other essences even if you aren't directing that action of singing in relation to any particular essence or expression. That doesn't matter. It accomplishes the action of lowering your blood pressure anyway, and that allows you to unblock that energy center and allows you to unblock that energy expression. Another action you can do is to visit a church, any church, and feel the energy, what we call the good vibes that many people have deposit there. Like I said, it is a matter of changing your perception and letting it go all worries or expectations. Even a nap will be helpful. You use a combination of any of the tips I am given here. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel.